Hello, IDS here, back with another ranking video. I do have some other long-form Bionicle lore type rambly videos that I have in the pipeline that I've actually got recorded, but I'm not sure how exactly I want to show those to you guys. So rankings won't be everything that we do here. But, you know what, enough rambling, let me get on to the list. So, today's ranking is the Toa Mahri. Now, the Toa Mahri are a very popular Toa team. Some beloved characters. I think 2007 looms high in a lot of people's hearts in the Bionicle community. Honestly, I'm not so hot on it compared to, I think, general community sentiment. 2007 varies drastically in quality, with some really fantastic sets and some really bad sets, in my opinion. And as a kid, 2007 was one of the first years where I was pretty disappointed. Seeing the Baraki for the first time at the Toa Mahri, I wasn't best thrilled. I think we all have this sort of awakening as a kid where you love everything that comes out when you're young, and then one day it's flipped and you suddenly have a critical brain, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't living up to my expectations. And of course, you look back in retrospect and things that you liked before aren't as good as you thought, but this was the first years that, as it was coming out, I was not so hot on it. So that gives you a little bit of context that I'm not, a die-hard fan of these guys. But that doesn't mean there aren't some great sets here. That doesn't mean there's some great things to discuss. But I think that gives some much needed context into some of my opinions here. Now, compared to the Toa Mahri ranking, I won't be factoring in character here. So with the Mahri, I think character plays a lot into the appeal of their designs because it was their first form. These are some of these characters' fourth forms. So their characters were established way before they were Mahri. So I think when it comes to personality, actually, when it comes to these sets, what's more important is how best I feel they represent their character versus the character factoring into the design, just because they are such a late iteration. So that's the difference here. And that's going to play a impact into how I rank them as well. There will be some sets on the list that I actually, in a vacuum, as a toy, as a model, I prefer better than others, but may not rank as high just because I think they're not as appealing of representation, or not as accurate a representation of the character, in my opinion. Whether or not you agree with that, that's up to you. But again, for this, I want it to be a holistic ranking of these sets as models, as representations of their characters, and whether or not I like them. So, but anyway, let's jump into it. I've been rambling for long enough. Who falls into my last slot? There's no real debate on this one for me. As far as I'm concerned, Hewkii Mahri is by and away the worst Toa Mahri, in my opinion. Hewkii is one of my favorite characters. I waxed lyrical last time about how much I love Bohatu. I really like the stone characters. A lot of my favorite characters are in the stone tribe. It is a tribe, but from the stone element in general. And this is why I find Hewkii Mahri extremely disappointing as a set. Why do I hate Hewkii Mahri? Well, for a plethora of reasons. So let's rattle them off first of all. So Hewkii Mahri was already quite a big departure from stone sets, considering the fact that he was the first one to not have brown as the primary color. Again, due to historically low sales, I've always liked those sets, but you can understand, I guess, the kids are like, oh, I want the red one, the blue one. I was like, I want the brown one. Racism. But it is what it is. However, I think while I wouldn't go for this color scheme for Hewkii per se, it really worked. This is a really striking color scheme. Now, I'd probably go for the secondary color of tan, just so he has some of that original color scheme within him. But you know what? As a vacuum, gunmetal and Keech orange was a really striking color scheme, and this gunmetal gray is a rocky color. Grays are a very rocky color. If you go out into nature and you pick up a pebble off the ground, more likely than not, it's going to be gray, not brown. So it wasn't actually a necessarily bad choice for a rock color. For stone, it is a stone color. The slicer of stone, I won't necessarily group so specifically elements, was gray and tan. So gunmetal, while, shiny, these are metallic robots, isn't a terrible color for stone. And with Keech orange being the secondary, one could assume that Hewkii's primary color was gunmetal. But when it came to the Mahri, he's lost that completely. They've basically made him black, which we have Nuparu. We already have a Toa of this team. with black armor. Why do we need another one? So I think that's a little bit of a step down. Utilizing black, I feel like is redundant, removes some of the kind of the unique elements of Hewkii, and I think detracts from the bold color choice of gunmetal gray. So that's already a con for it. Secondly, these proportions. Terrible proportions here. He uses the full Metru limb, so the Metru thigh and the Metru shin, which means that is one stud shorter than the Vizrak bone that he uses for his upper arms, and one stud shorter than the Inika or Rakshi length limbs that he has for his upper arms, meaning he has this big gorilla stance. His arms are longer than his legs. I don't think that's good. Now, I know in the essence of variety, you know, people like to make hulking kind of gorilla type proportions on really, really strong characters. I don't think that works for Hewkii. Maybe for an Onur or Pohatu, those characters are sort of portrayed as these kind of brick shithouse kind of jacked powerhouses. Hewkii was more like an athlete sportsman type build, like strong, muscular, sort of that. You can picture that, and I feel like some of that strength was conveyed in his Inika form. But he's not some hulking, knuckle dragging Neanderthal. It just doesn't suit his character, in my opinion. I just don't think it works very well, and it makes his proportions look really damn goofy. So don't like that. And moving up, I feel like we're working our way up the build here. The backwards Paraka torso. The backwards Paraka torso, in my opinion, was one of the biggest plagues of late-stage Bionicle. I hate this design choice. The Paraka torso works for the Paraka mainly because they are almost... No, they're not hunched over characters, but they have a neck that extends, that creates a leaning forward look. So it leans over the middle of that torso. That doesn't work with a Metru head. So they have to flip it backwards to make it work, and it's terrible. A strong, upright character has trapezius muscles that point upwards. You can see this on Inika armor. The Inika armor has trapezius muscles, essentially. The shoulders rake upwards, which creates a natural, strong, upright anatomy, I guess. The Paraka torso makes the neck go down and creates a slouched look, and every single character with the backwards Paraka torso looks slouched and not strong, and looks like I'm a little nervous guy with my shoulders up. It looks terrible. It makes characters just look really sloppy, and I basically hate every set that used this. From when the Fantoka came around and it looked like the Paraka torso was gone, I was so happy. And then boom, it was back with the Mystica in full force, and it was terrible then. And not only that, but it creates this hollow chest look because there's no armor here. From the front, it's thick and armored, but the back, it's like the chest has been scooped out. So for our athlete character, our strongest member of the team, having a scooped out chest, it looks really bad. The only character that necessarily gets a pass with using this build, and it's not really a pass, but she uses it the best, is Hewkii Mahri. Of course, we're going to talk about her in a bit. And it's because she uses the same color Paraka torso and same color hips. So it almost kind of blends together, and it's not so obvious that this is a hollow chest just because it's a monochrome color. Every other backwards Paraka torso build, unless I'm missing one, have these different colors, like the black and the Kitaranchi, so it's really obvious. Looks terrible. Don't like it. So that's another bad thing here. Moving on to the arms. The asymmetry of the arms is terrible to me. Why has he got a Keto orange arm? Why has he got a black arm? Why? Might be big. That might be ironic coming from me, considering the main character of my show also has asymmetrical arms. But, you know, that's sort of incorporated to the design. His hands also are swapped colors. He's also a comedy character. This is like, I don't think it really works here. Throws off the color balance. It looks very odd. And yeah, it just looks strange. And then I think the elephant in the room really is the missing hand. Just looks sloppy. It doesn't look intentional here. It's not like the Toa Mahri where, you know, they have the sword arm where it feels like this is designed around this. It just looks bad. There's no hand here. And then it also means that the Kordak Blaster is locked in a really odd position where it just has to be adjacent to the bone for it to work. Not great for posing. Just looks goofy and awkward. Terrible. Yeah, that sucks too. The upper arms as well. I understand what they're trying to look for. They're trying to go for like a little gladiator warrior type look where you've got kind of the ammunition on the shoulder and the bladed shoulders. It just makes the upper arms look really scrawny compared to the really heavy, thick pieces on the lower arms. If they had like Rakshi limbs or even the Metru limbs, to match A, the legs, and B, to thin these out. It might not look so bad, but right now, Hewkii's kind of got Popeye arms, where it doesn't look intentional either. It doesn't look like there's a natural rake to the arms getting thicker at the bottom, if that's like a kind of hyper-exaggerated look you want. It just doesn't look good. He's just got really skinny upper arms and really massive long forearms. Doesn't look great. Comparing to Hewkii again, Hewkii and Ica, the chains. I really like the fact that he has chains. I really like continuity between forms. Pohatu keeping his feet additions from nuva, when he turned into a nuva. Kopaka keeping his shield when he turned into a nuva. I liked how Onua in the game kept his claws as he became a nuva alongside his Quake Breakers. Really cool. I like continuity like that. So I really like the fact that he has chains. But even in that sense, just with in almost every aspect, he's a downgrade. He has worse chains. Hewkii and Ica's chains are really cool. Now, I appreciate that would have really boosted the piece count here, so it's not a massive knock, but it's just another thing where it's like, just in another way, he is slightly worse as a Mahri. Speaking on the weapons, I guess, the weapons and the shins, these are really cool, versatile blades that he has. Again, they got a lot of use later on. Lots of connection points. Really loads of connection points with these lightsaber holes, but they are really bland. You know, there is a reason they got a lot of use out of them. They're not as stylish as like the Tarkanuva blade or Lewa's katanas. They are just really nondescript weapons. They don't jump out to me as, oh, that's Hewkii's iconic staff. It's just, so yeah, they're okay. They're just kind of sort of bland weapons. And the Knight's Kingdom mace thighs, cool to see him used here, I guess. Not the greatest. I actually think Stronius looked better with them. It was just a bit more cohesive with his color scheme. Again, Hewkii has no armor, really, anywhere. The only armor he has are his thighs, and they're silver, so they're not great, in my opinion. And I guess, finally, the mask. Now, I actually really like this mask. It's very unique, it's very different. I like the power. Very cool. Does not look like Hewkii. Does not look like Hewkii at all. I like the fact that it's a manta ray sea theme, but, like, why does he look like that? Why does he look like a weird monster man? If this was like a Hordika style interpretation where all the Mahri had mutated into kind of aquatic sea creature type versions of themselves, this would be fantastic. Hewkii's heart like half mutated into like a manta ray type thing, kind of neat. None of the other Mahri have that. There's no through line with the rest of the sets that is what happened. So why the hell does Hewkii look like a weird mutant creature? I don't know. The helmet thing is kind of cool. It's weird being more of a helmet than a mask, but whatever, it's kind of unique. It allows it to be compatible with the Skakti head, which is kind of cool. But yeah, even the things that I do like about Hewkii are either a downgrade from his Ica form, or I don't think are suited to the character. So yeah, all around, I really hate the set. It's one of the worst iterations of a character in G1, in my opinion. And joins the echelon alongside like Tahu Mystica, Onua Mystica of sets that just really, to me, just miss the mark of being the character they're supposed to be. So again, yeah, to me, there's no question why that Hewkii is the worst of the Toa Mahri, in my opinion. Okay, so easy bottom place. Who goes next? Well, again, I think, in my opinion, pretty handily that goes to Motoro. Now, of course, Motoro is Motoro. He holds massive clout. It's very important to the community, to the story. He's the sacrificial lamb. Doesn't mean his set's very good. He's another, in my opinion, victim of massive downgrade from an Ica form. Motoro and Ica's Toa form is such a great set. Top tier canister sets. Hewkii's as well. Top tier canister set. Set is the definition of aura farming. He just looks so damn cool and stoic. The white, trans blue, and silver is just so clean. Speaking about, like, you know, representing the characters well, I almost think it's too cool for Motoro. It almost feels too cool for Motoro, but I would rather someone look too cool and then look like a gimp. And I think Motoro and Ica really excelled in that. Motoro Mahri, on the other hand, does not to me. There's a lot I find wrong with this set, and I don't think it's very good. If anything, I'll start with the mask. I don't hate the mask. I just find it really, really boring. It looks naive, and it's just so... There's nothing striking about it to me. Maybe that actually represents Matora better. Matora is a very kind of low down. He doesn't necessarily, believe in himself. But actually, his confidence was increasing as a Mahri by the time, that point of his character development. So even that might be a knock. I don't know. It's largely inoffensive. It's just really boring to me. Most of my problems come with the rest of the set. The legs, first of all. The martyr feet. Obviously, to me, the martyr foot is the best foot bionicle I've ever had. So it's not like, oh, this is terrible that's being used here. But with the bionicle style established at this point, the feet are almost a little bit comedically exaggerated in size. So they feel a little small for this build comparatively. They're not actually too small, but they just feel small in comparison to his team members, to the UNICLE build style. To most of the bionicle aesthetic, it looks a little bit small. It also messes with the color layering. His legs are from the knee down fully white. I think we're kind of accustomed to bionicle ankles corresponding with their bones. And speaking of the color layering, that goes into the arms as well. The hands are randomly light gray. That feels off. Maybe they were trying to match it up with the mask. If that was the case, they could have done them in silver. Those pieces exist from the Borat Carl. That might have been neat. I don't think it would look that much better, but they just feel weird. Really don't like the Inika shoulder armor used as thighs here. They look really skinny from the front. Makes him have gynoid hips from the side. He's got little booty and hips. It's just weird. Not a great look. I think using the standard light blue here was a bit of a downgrade from the trans blue of the Inika form. Honestly, they could have brought back sand blue for him. I don't know why. It would have been a throwback to his OG set. We had these pieces from Vizok. Would have made him stand out a little bit more. And I think it might have looked cooler and a bit more subdued alongside the silver here. But yeah, so that's a bit of a downgrade. Don't know why he's hunched over. I know they wanted to try something a little bit unique. And I appreciate that because now we're in the not clone set era, but where Waves were just reusing the builds again. So I kind of appreciate the effort, but I don't know why he's hunched back. I don't think it works for the character. It makes him look very odd. Really like the shoulder armor. This is a great new piece. Asymmetrical arms here again. He has the tiny arm like the Paraka do, but it's worse than the Paraka. The Paraka use the Metru length limb, so basically their entire limb is a Metru limb from the bone to the arm. He uses the Visorak length limb, so he has a really long upper arm, really tiny lower arm. It looks ridiculous and worse than the Paraka limb. The Paraka limb, they're not super. They're kind of creatures. They're creaturistic. It almost feels a little bit more forgiving there. He's supposed to be humanoid, more standard humanoid. It just looks odd to have this little gimp arm. Yeah, and the claw weapon, I like the piece. I actually think the piece looks nicer just by itself. It's almost better. Usually, the set debuts with the weapon, and that's the best usage of the weapon, and then it gets utilized later on. This almost feels like a later use of the weapon. It's weird to think that this was the first use as the twin cutter. I'm not a big fan of the way that looks here. Again, hunchback and claw. Why is he a weird Onua pastiche? I don't get it. I don't think it works for the character. Overall, leaves to a very strange looking build. Not a fan of this one. Easily for me, this one goes into 5th place. No questions asked as far as I'm concerned. Okay, 4th place. This is going to be one where character and set start to deviate here. Because in 4th place, I'm actually going to put Hewkii Mahri. Hewkii Mahri, I actually quite like as a set. The dark green and grey is a very clean color scheme. At this point, though, dark grey was old hat. The Metru years ran dark grey into the ground, so it's kind of disappointing. That dark grey is still really prevalent here, but it was nice to get some dark grey recolored Metru limbs. And then getting some Rakshi recolors here. I really like the new body. Again, we're in reuse territory here. The Inika torso and the Paraka torso are here to stay. Kongu giving us a new torso is fantastic. Great. And reusing the Hordika limbs as shoulders, fantastic. Piece reusage. He's got a fully almost like custom composite torso out of existing pieces. Really cool. Really like that. It is a little flat. Again, I like the piece, but from the side, he's very, very, very flat. I don't know for the mockists out there if you've ever overlaid the skinnier Inika body armor, the one that Jala wears. That actually fits very nicely over this torso if you remove the Metru chest here and fleshes it out a bit for people who want to try that. I've done that on Party Fantoka before. It actually works. It fits together quite nicely. Surprised Lego never actually did that. But yeah, he introduced the new eye stalk that ended up being the default eye stalk in 2008. That's a fantastic piece. Added a connection point to the Metru head, essentially, and gave us a more space-efficient version of the Metru eyes. Allows us to retroactively give eyes to the Voya Nui Matoran as well as the Mahri Matoran. I like the customization of the head there. That little dome breathing device thing is cool. The Zath is really cool. I talked about it in a video recently how there's a secret Miaru hiding in there. Great mask. In a vacuum, the not having a Toa tool... Sorry, in context of everything, not having a Toa tool is a bit disappointing. I think Kongu may be the first canister set to not have a unique Toa tool. Every canister had a unique weapon at that point. And I think Kongu's the first one who didn't. That was continued with Vampira, because Vampira also does not have a unique weapon, being a new canister set. But Kongu was the first one to do it. But as a kid, in essence of the set, it does look cool having the two Cordite blasters. It gives him this Doom Guy sort of vibe. The dark green and the greys are evocative of that. So in a vacuum, this guy is super cool. I like the Rakshi recolored feet as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. And actually, his green Anika armor, he didn't have that as an Anika, so those are new as well. So I really like this set. He's a stocky little heavy weapons guy. Pretty neat. This is not a Toa of Air. That's my problem here. This doesn't look like Kongu at all. Why is he so tiny? Why is he so stocky? Why is he like a bruiser? This really feels like an engineer. I'm not sure Nuparu would fit this necessarily, but he looks like a heavy weapons stocky guy. I don't know. This feels more suited to something like an Onu Matoran, or Onu Toa, I guess you would call them, versus a Toa of Air. I don't really see this as Kongu. It doesn't suit the character very well. I also don't like what Lego was doing later on, where, okay, we've got the longer and shorter bones coexisting. Why do the shorter limbs always go with the shorter upper limbs? It makes characters like him, Malum, Pohatu really tiny. Really tiny. I don't like there to be a huge height disparity between the characters. I like the variety, but he's too short. But yeah, so I like this set. This is probably maybe my second or third favorite build actually as a set, but again, due to poor representation of the character, he needs to sit in fourth place, unfortunately. So great set, not a great Kongu. Third place is Nuparu. Nuparu is almost like the reverse of Kongu. So let's take a look. What can I say about Nuparu? Nuparu is completely serviceable. He's okay. He's a completely functional Inika build. The shield is kind of cool. That's a cool new mold. I like his mask. It's really really aquatic, scuba themed looking mask. I like the new little Batman swooshy type swooshy type armor. That's kind of cool. And the rest of him, he's just kind of functional. But so then what's my problem? So my problem with Nuparu is really like a death by a million little cuts. First things first, the Paraka feet, not a big fan of those. I understand he's going for the scuba design and he's supposed to look like he's got flippers, but it kind of locks him to the sea. Now that these characters are aquatic, he's now walking around with giant flipper feet. Not a great look. If this was these were supposed to be feet attachments or something, like a headcanon is, he has his normal feet underneath these and these are just flippers he wears while he's underwater. Cool. But yeah, not a great fan of those. The use of the Paraka limbs as all the limbs is kind of cool. I do like the way this piece looks, but it limits articulation at the ankles and wrists. To be fair, ankle articulation, their ankles aren't actually as articulated as most Bionicles are, so it's not so bad, but the wrists are really hindered by this. It also means he's really gappy. His rectangular gaps throughout his body. And then the cool little Batman swoosh piece that he has as well, while cool, doesn't necessarily cover these limbs very well, so essentially he has these exposed bones everywhere, so he ends up being really just gappy throughout. Also, the Inika torso, he uses a variant that has a very specific crotch molding, and they extended it below it so his little pussy is sticking out. Yeah, not a fan of that. What are you doing? Why? This is clearly designed to match this piece. If they wanted to do this, they could have used the other Inika armor that doesn't have the crotch molding. The 2016 Toa are guilty of this as well, where they have a crotch build, and then the armor plating has a crotch on it, and the crotch sits above the crotch. He's double crotching it. Why are you double crotching it? So yeah, Nuparu, put this shit away. There are kids around. The shield is okay. Again, it's a cool mold, but it's really hindered by this wrist articulation. He can't really guard to the side because he only has up and down movement with it. Like, if you were going to do this arm design, you really shouldn't have given him a shield as a weapon. And also, if we want to go back to the character side of things, I don't think Nuparu is a shield guy. Nuparu Naika was really cool because he had extra weapons. His weapons were modded. He had, he's like attached a scope to his drill. He's put his ammo launcher on his shoulder. He's got extra claws that kind of aim is a cool lineage. It's like an Onu Toa lineage, but it just shows that he's got these extra weapons. He's thinking creatively. Before shoulder weapons became commonplace, it was like Nuparu's done it. It's because he's a clever engineer guy. Giving him just one solitary defensive shield, which is like the most least technological advanced weapon, to me is an ill-fitting tool for Nuparu. Same thing with his face. Again, it's cool. Scuba face. I like the Volatak design. It just feels very mellow and meek. I don't think Nuparu's that way. Some fans like to see Nuparu as like a fucking dweeb because they're fucking dweebs and they think, oh, he's smart. Smart people are nerds. I like to see Nuparu more like a Tony Stark. I mean, they also built their suit of armor in a cave, right? I think, and again, a lot of that is read through the character, is about through my own filter of the way I see things, but I've always seen him as like a renegade, cool engineer type guy. You look at him as an Anika as well. Some of that is informed through the face. He's pretty radical looking. I feel like he's been at the forefront of the war. I don't see him as like a dweeb. This feels like a very kind of meek, mellow mask, and I also don't necessarily see it as suiting this character. But because it's just okay, I don't hate the set, and I can kind of see it as Nuparu. Like, I have a easier time seeing this as Nuparu than I have seen Kongu Mahri's Kongu, for example. So just by pure virtue of that, he sits in number 3. Like, I don't think he's a better build than Kongu by any stretch, but I have an easier time swallowing this pill that this character is Nuparu than I do that character being Kongu. So he gets to sit in 3rd place. It's a perfectly functional set. But there's still plenty of flaws, and I don't necessarily think it's a great fit for the character. Okay. Again, almost conversely, Harley is my number 2. You heard me just rail into this build earlier, so I'm not a fan of this backwards Paraka torso. I hate this build so much, but as I mentioned earlier, Harley, of all the sets that did use it the best. By keeping the hips and the torso the same color, it's not so obvious that this is a scooped out chest piece. It kind of all washes together and hides that. Also, the way that Harley's pipes that connect to her mask sit a little bit lower on her face, it kind of hides this as well from a lot of angles, so the scooped out chest isn't super obvious. So yeah. Other than that, literally her limbs are really standard in Naika. They're almost the same as her Naika form, just with the thinner limbs, which I think is better suited for her as a character. The claw is okay. Not a big fan of it. It's one of the weaker claws they did, mainly because the middle finger is completely straight. It makes it for a really weird weapon. And the wings are cool. Again, she's a perfectly serviceable set. It's cool getting a lot of these Anika pieces remolded in standard blue versus the molded with white. I'm not sure if I like the white or from her Anika form better, or the lime for this one better. Piece brittle stuff is not factored into this. Lego's plastic molding has no bearing on a Bionicle designer. That's just a quality issue versus a design issue. But yeah. So she's pretty bog standard, bar the wings. So why does she rank so highly? I think this is a very good fit for Harley's character. The Faxon is a very good nondescript mask that I think works for males and females. I like it on Lezovic. I don't really like Lezovic as a build either, and I think it looks good and matches her personality. I think it works in the lineage of the Cow, having the trans dome underneath it. I think it works very well for her character. And while I think basically all the Yonika took a step down when they became Mahri in terms of their character representation. Harley and I think Jala, they were the only ones that took a step up. I like Harley Yonika as a build, but it's not just the mustache that makes her look like a man. It's also the really strong jaw. It's also the bald head. Like, everything about that is not just a dude, but a super hyper masculine dude. That's completely reversed here. This, I think, is a very good representation of this character. I like the fact that, you know, the blue-green, it's very ocean-themed. It's very much like a bottom-of-the-sea type color scheme. It would have been nice to see her with the light blue. I think if Motoro hadn't used it, giving her light blue as a secondary color would have been more boring, but it would have matched her. It would have had her exact colors. That would have been cool. But yeah, so completely serviceable set. Pretty great representation of the character. Again, has my cardinal sin of the backwards Paraka torso. However, the strength of character representation prevails here, putting Harley at number 2. And I don't think it's any surprise to anyone who the best is. And that just happens to be my good friend Jala. Jala Mahri, what can I say about Jala Mahri? Jala Mahri is a masterclass in the Yonika build category. I mean, it's fantastic. It's not even that complicated of a build. It's arguably does very little to innovate on it, but it is just so good, so clean. So this build is great. Fantastic representation of the character. I think my problem with Jala Yonika is he looks very much like a rookie. He's a very fresh-faced look to him, which I don't necessarily think represents Jala, especially compared to the rest of his team. I'd argue that Jala is one of the most capable Toa, and I think the visage of the Arthron, I think embodies that very well. I really like the kind of the samurai aesthetic going on here with this chest plate matching the head. Fantastic. I don't know why he's a samurai, but it works really well. It's a really clean looking build. Another composite torso instead of just using a prefab torso. This, along with Motoro's shoulder as the stomach, is great. Gives us the 2 colors as well. I like the incorporation of the pipes. That's fantastic as well. The rest of it is basically his Yonika limbs, just in solid orange. Now, interestingly, orange, I don't really attribute to a Jala color. I feel like that's Tahu and Vakama. Jala was yellow or gold. Thanks to the movie, I'm equally willing to accept Jala as Mada red and yellow or dark red and gold. And his Yonika form actually had dark red and gold. So I felt like that was the correct secondary color. Obviously with the trans orange to represent the addition of the lightning stuff. But, you know, I don't know if this set would look better if it was marbled with gold or yellow. I'm not sure. Again, I've lived with this set for nearly 20 years. Oh my good grief. But yeah, so obviously I'm going to be used to it being orange, and it works really well here. That's a character knock I would have, just because, you know, Jala is yellow or gold. But fantastic usage here. In a vacuum, it works so well. The sword is super clean. Really versatile piece. Yeah, fantastic sword. I think of all the swords in Bionicle, I think this sword compared to and Motoro and Nika's sword are like neck and neck for the greatest, like, standard sword. Nothing like a flame sword or anything too like element specific, or a standard sword. Those two are in the running for the best just standard sword blade. Really cool. I really like his accents of black. Really feels like a throwback to the Mada, throwback to Lee Khan. The black hands and the black hips looks really nice as a highlight. And if we just cut it off there, he would still be the best set. However, they had to go in and just go the damn extra mile and put this frickin' Rahi in here. You're getting a twofer. I think this was the first canister set to have essentially a companion piece within it, and it is great. What a fantastic build. I mean, it's such a cute little thing, such great piece usages at such a small scale. You get Baraki eyes in there, you get an extra pair of Onua claws, so you get extra Toa tools in there. It's almost like when Nuparu Nika, who is also one of the GOAT canister sets, has his extra claw weapons. You've got an extra build here, an extra one of those new armor pieces in there. The build is freaking cute. You get little extra barbs in there. The fact that you can have the Cordac Blaster mounted on this as like an AA gun is great as well, because the Cordac Blaster is a giant, unwieldy weapon. It's cool looking. but it's that shouldn't be a handheld weapon. That's like a Gatling gun, machine gun, that's not. And, unlike some of the other guns, such as the Midex Skyblaster, which is also very large, I think it benefits from being long and being a little bit more abstract. This looks like a real-world gun with real ammunition, and it looks, honestly, pretty out of place on a lot of the Mahri. And then also it adds this red extra color. By having it not on Jala's build and being obfuscated onto the crab means, Jala can stand alone and be very clean. Meanwhile, this thing is on here, and it doesn't look so unwieldy because it's mounted properly. It doesn't look like you'd be struggling to lug this thing around just because it operates on its own. So that is just a bonus. Like, Jala was already 10 out of 10 without the crab. This pushes him to like 15 out of 10. Like, he handily beats any other Mahri set while being pretty simple. Even just throwing stuff back to the chain here. Yeah, he's using the system chain, but I think it works here because it's not a weapon. This is like a functional thing. But yeah, I don't know. I could continue gushing, but I don't think I have much more to say without repeating the same points. So, without a shadow of a doubt, Jala is the best Toa Mahri. Again, I don't know if there's some hot takes here. I feel like I'm going to get more people disagreeing with my specific opinions on the sets versus the ranking here. I don't think it's that hard of a take to say that Jala Mahri is the best Toa Mahri set. He's just freaking goated. I'm sure people disagree with the ones in the middle. But yeah, I don't think necessarily as a list as a whole, this is too wild. But maybe some people will disagree with some of the individual opinions. But yeah, that's it. That's my list of the Toa Mahri. Again, not my favorite Toa team in terms of sets. Not the worst. Maybe the worst? I don't know. No, it's not the worst. There are some strong sets here that balance it out. I know people love 2007, but it is what it is. But great, that is my ranking. I'll leave it there. My new animation is coming. It takes time. Again, I don't have that much time. Life is long. I'm gonna try and get out the next one of these long form videos. I want to try and get out will be a lore type video talking about something that isn't just ranking. I'm sure some people who are older school fans of my channel like, why is this guy, when did this guy become a ranking guy? Look, I want to get stuff out to you. If I'm just working my animations, you're not going to get any content. It's just the fact of the matter. So yeah, that's my list. Let me know your rankings in the comments. Let me know what other rankings you'd like to hear. If there's any topic regarding Bionicle that you'd like me to talk about, maybe have an opinion on it, drop it in the chat. Maybe I'll pick it up. And yeah, new animation coming soon. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.